righty. Bless you. All right, let's get started. Okay, let's get started. Just in terms of housekeeping, just so everybody's aware, as far as I know, this will be that was the last time that we met in Drinko. We should be in here from here on out, as far as I know. Sign-in sheet. Okay, let's talk about housekeeping, because up until now, we really haven't had any submissions due, and now they're going to start to bam, 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 bam. Okay, so let me go through the upcoming submissions so that everybody's aware of what's going on. And we're probably going to have a somewhat short lecture. I know a lot of you are going to need to prepare for your upcoming foundations exam. So that's right. It's celebrations of learning, right? What's that? Instead of an after party, it's a before party, right? Or something like that. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's everybody said that. Okay. All right. So you all don't have any submissions due today, but you are going to have some coming up. Okay. So let's go through these. Okay. So next Wednesday, your ethics assignment is going to be due. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the ethics assignment? Any clarifications, anything that I can do? Again, there's really no wrong answer. I just want to make sure that the answer that you have proposed is backed up by the canons of ethics. Yes, sir? So that's just turned in online? Turned in online. Just submit it online. On everything here, great question. Everything here is submitted on Blackboard, okay? Everything, just upload it there, okay? With all the assignments that we've got going on, it's going to make it a whole lot easier for me to keep track of it. Sound good? Okay. All right. On next Wednesday, I'm not going to be here, assuming my flights and everything all work out. I'm actually, on Wednesday, I'm going to be coming back from Colorado, so I'm not going to be here. So we're going to cancel class next Wednesday. And instead of like doing an online lecture like I did last time, we've got plenty of time. So I'm just going to push the next series of lectures down. So we just won't do anything for next Wednesday. And one of the ways I justify that is because you all have a lot of submissions due. Okay, so homework 1 is going to be due next Wednesday, again online. You've got 2 new assignments, which I'm going to talk about today. One of them is a continuing education assignment, and one of them is the contemporary issues assignment. The continuing education assignment will take you all of about 30 minutes. It's really going to be very short. Just a little bit of Googling, and assuming you can get Google Chrome to work on these computers. Yeah, you can get Microsoft Edge to work, right? Awesome. It must be a security thing or something. I don't know. But you have the continuing education assignment, which will take you all of about 30 minutes. And then if your ethics assignment is one of your major writing assignments, the contemporary issues assignment is the other. Okay, so there are really 2 big writing assignments this semester. The ethics assignment is the first one, and then this contemporary issues is the second one. All of the assignments that you see up here are now online. They are now on Blackboard. Okay, so I'm going to go through the assignments one at a time and make sure everybody's okay with this. Homework 3, the contemporary issues, is a paper. So just use the same formatting guidelines that you did for homework 1. Homework 2, you're going to see here real quick, is very short. So you can just Word document, bulleted list. I think you'll see it's pretty straightforward. Don't forget your resume, by the way, which hopefully most of you have got complete. I mean, we had a job fair yesterday, so hopefully you all have got something to submit there. Okay, let's look at the assignments. So let's look at homework 2. Okay. It's going to be like that. All right, we're just going to use the Word document. Word documents. Word documents. Although it doesn't really matter because I'm going to leave comments on. If you already did, I don't think it's going to matter. So, okay. Homework assignment number 2. Okay, so this is a new one. This is a continuing education assignment. It's really just to ensure that you all understand the importance of continuing education once you get out of here, and we're going to talk a little bit about stuff like that today. But the big ticket item for us as practicing engineers, continuing education is most important to us from a licensure standpoint. And you all heard the folks from the engineering board, I believe that was week 3, I think it was, where they came and it was either week 2 or week 3. No, it was week 2. Week 2, where they came and presented on the process for obtaining your licensure. So just to make sure everybody's aware of that, I've got a few pretty basic questions. You know, why is it important for an engineer to continue their education? List 5 sources of PDHs. How many PDHs are required annually in the state of West Virginia? And what's your continuing education plans for the next 5 years? So just, you know, pretty basic stuff. I don't think this is, like I said, I don't think this is going to take all of more than 30 minutes. You know, just to make sure that you all are paying attention and are aware of what's going on. That's going to be due on the 18th. Okay. Any questions on that? I mean, if you can use the same formatting guidelines that you have previously, but I mean, this should pretty much be like number 1, here's your answer. Number 2, here's your answer. So on and so forth. I did bullet them. I didn't number them, but I think it's going to be pretty easy to discern either way. So I think I'll be able to navigate the complexity of this assignment. What's that? You're going to put them out of order. Well, you're out of order. I don't know. You got to have fun with it, right? You got to have a little bit of fun with it. Okay. Let's talk about homework assignment number 3, okay? Because this is one that's going to take you a little bit more time. And I'm testing some things out with Blackboard. I hope it works out. So we'll see how this plays out. Okay. So homework assignment number 3. This is your contemporary issues writing assignment. So, you know, we have, you know, certain outcomes, generalized outcomes that we want to make sure that you all are aware of when you get your degree. You know, obviously you're engineers, so we want to make sure that you can apply an understanding of math and science and engineering to solve engineering problems, and we want you all to be able to design a system or component, and et cetera, and you need to be able to perform lab experiments, and this is stuff you've been doing throughout your collegiate career. But there's also other aspects. We want you to understand the need for professional and ethical responsibility. We want you to understand and recognize a need for understanding contemporary issues. So we bring this stuff up in all of our classes, but this is really our true chance to assess this. Okay. So what I want you all to do, and this is going to be pretty open-ended. It's really sort of up to you, and I want you to have a little bit of fun with it. But I want you all to write a 2.5-page paper. I have here double space. I know I said 1.5 spacing on. I said 1.5 spacing on the ethics paper, but since it says double space, what the heck? We'll go with double space. All right. No, I said 1. I'm gonna stick to the 1.5 on that, but yeah. So we'll write I want you all to write a 2.5-page paper on a selected controversial topic within engineering. Okay. Did I put what did I put in the email? Did I say double space? Okay, then double space. All right. Whatever I say, we'll just keep it consistent. So that's what I was getting ready to say. This is first come, first serve. So. You get it in now. Well, I'll let you all have the Thunderdome competition to figure out who does what. But okay, all right. Let me talk a little bit about the assignment. So your paper should reflect current state of knowledge. Again, it's on a controversial contemporary issue as it relates to engineering. In particular, I'm hoping civil engineering, but if you branch outside a little bit, that's fine. So for instance, if you did something like driverless vehicles, driverless vehicles, yeah, that's kind of civil engineering and maybe a little bit of mechanical and electrical. I understand there's a little bit of crossover, and that's fine. But what I'm interested in assessing is, number one, do you understand the topic? Does it reflect an understanding of this contemporary issue? Or did you provide enough relevant technical facts and info in the paper? Did you get your info from quality sources? So make sure that you're citing, reputable sources. And is there an adequate number of references? One reference for your whole paper really wouldn't be enough. I mean, for a paper of this size, I mean, if you're not providing at least 3 to 5, something's wrong. So these are some topics that have been done in the past, nuclear energy, electric cars, wind farms, what have you. It's really sort of up to you. Now, if you go on Blackboard, you're going to see a survey, and it's up there now, okay? This is going to be first come, first serve, okay? You're going to pick a topic, and what I'm going to do is this, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to rank them by date submitted, and as soon as I see a duplicate, I'm going to say, you got to come up with another one. So I will leave it to you all to come up with your topics. I would come up with a topic sooner rather than later. But let me say this. Even if we're talking about something like, let's say, driverless vehicles. I mean, driverless vehicles is a big topic. What do you want to talk about with driverless vehicles? There could be two people talking about driverless vehicles from two completely different contexts. Like, for instance, somebody could be talking about it from a technological standpoint, actually making the engineering work. And then somebody could be talking about it from a security standpoint. If everybody had driverless cars, right, and it was all one big network, it could be hacked. See what I mean? So something to think about. Okay? Are there any questions on this homework assignment? Yes? I don't have a problem if you put an opinion in it, as long as it's well-cited. I don't have a problem with that. I'm really just more interested in, do you understand the issue in general?
So just issues?
Yeah, I mean, you have to clearly define the issues that you're describing. I mean, if you have a controversial topic and there's two sides, and then you want to pick a side, I don't know that I have a problem with that, as long as you're clearly defining side A and side B. Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
But can we use one of these topics up here?
You can. I don't have a problem with that. But, I mean, you're the one writing the paper, so I would suggest writing something that you want. I mean, don't just pick something that you're not interested in. Or, just pick something because it's there. I mean, if you're going to be working on this for the next, month? I mean, pick something that you're at least interested in. So. Any questions? Any other questions, I guess I should say? Okay. All right. Today is going to be a pretty short lecture. There's not a terrible amount of stuff to talk about in terms of networking. Hi, how's it going? My name's Greg Michelson.
Are you new here as well? I just transferred in over from WVU.
So did I. I didn't see you there. Oh, goodness. Hey, hey. Come on, man. That was a little bit over the line. That was a little bit over the line. All right, that That was the limit. Nothing further than that. Okay. No, there's an asymptote. There's a clear asymptote. So. Oh my goodness. Can we please talk about networking and future opportunities? There you go. Yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm curious. Raise your hand. How many people were at the job fair?
I was there. It was cool.
Okay, so, what's that? It doesn't hurt.
I picked up candy off of
All right.
every single.
Now, if you were not working or something like that, and you had free time and you just didn't go, well, you should have. Okay, getting your name out there, you have absolutely no idea what prospects could be out there. But sometimes it can be a little challenging. I mean, you walk up to some, even if it's a job fair, and even if it's a situation where you walk into a room and there are people out there that they are looking for engineers. They are looking to hire folks. And here you are, a person that, hey, I want to be hired. You would think the conversation is pretty natural. But even then, I mean, you're starting off from scratch. Hi, my name is so-and-so. And you want to help carry a conversation. There are some things that can help with that. And I have this note here, and then, as soon as I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm getting the feeling like, well, I'm talking to seniors. Hopefully, most of you have had the chance to be involved with student chapters, but, let me just put this out here, okay? I'm telling you right now, we have a number of students that have gotten positions, have gotten jobs because of their involvement in student chapters, period, okay? I'm telling you right now, SAME, ASCE, some of the other organizations, I'm telling you, being involved in those chapters can get you employed, okay? A lot of discussions that you might have with potential employees, discussions at career fairs and places like that. I mean, ASCE, we're all civil engineers. ASCE is a very common experience among a lot of civil engineers when they're in undergrad. It's a great way to begin conversation. Hey, I've worked on the canoe. I worked on the bridge. So, we're at a point right now where, you tell me, where are we at on the bridge? Waiting on material to come in. So this is a perfect time to say, hey, need some help cutting and welding and grinding? Austin will tell you, it's a lot of work. We're not going to do as much grinding this year, though, right? Hopefully not. That's a long story for another day. But this is the time to, get your hands dirty, get involved with stuff like that. We haven't cast a canoe or anything like that. I think we're still working on mixed designs at this point. So this is a perfect time to get involved, okay? There's great stuff to put on your resume, perfect icebreakers. And student chapter involvement leads to professional organization involvement. This is something you're really going to want to consider when you get out of here. You'd be surprised. It's kind of interesting how many students, when they graduate and they get jobs and they're practicing engineers, how they're done with ASCE. And I always find that a little confusing, because all this is just an opportunity to continue that network once you get out of here. Instead of networking with fellow students, you're networking with fellow potential clients and potential partners and colleagues on given projects. Again, like I say, there are students who have gotten jobs because of involvement in these organizations. So make sure that you're aware of this. You're going to do a lot of networking at conferences as well. I'm sure everybody in this room is aware of our annual conference that we host here. Just pop quiz, what do we put on the table for every attendee at the conference? We put a book full of resumes. I mean, let's put it like this, okay? If your resume is on the table at that conference and you're not there, like, you need to be there, Like, we're going to need volunteers. Be there, be available to shake somebody's hand, say, hey, my name is Greg, I'm such and such. That connection, that meeting, next thing you know, they're sitting there listening to a presentation and they're flipping through the resumes and they make the connection and they keep that name in their head. Next thing you know, they're 2 weeks down the line, we got to start filling positions. What about that Greg guy? Maybe we ought to pick up the phone and call them. All right? Serious. You all, I get it. You all are at the point where you're still in, we got to take finals, we got papers due and all this, but you all are seniors. We're at the point now where it's like, okay, now we need to transition towards life post-college, right? The light is at the end of the tunnel, I hope. Is the light at the end of the tunnel? Is it there? Well, I promise you're seniors, so the light is there, okay? But has a good support structure, though. The point I'm making is, whether or not you believe it, the light is there at the end of the tunnel because you are close to getting done. But what I'm talking about is forming the picture past the tunnel, okay? And you really need to start thinking about that now because that's where we're headed, okay? This is just another note on that, looking at business meetings, when you're actually in employment, make sure you're keeping good contact with folks in meetings. Again, you never know who you could be working with. You never know who could be your boss. Just think about that. But I want you all to really embrace this. I know that some of you all are probably thinking about the resume assignment in here as just that, just another assignment. It's just another thing that Dr. Mike is making us do this week, okay? But you honestly should put a lot of passion into this because this is your introductory document into the workforce, okay? I told you flat out from day one, you make a submission, I'm giving you 100 on it. It's not about, it's not about the grade at this point. It's about, okay, you need to get your resume to a place that you're comfortable with and that advertises your qualities on the job market, okay? So if you want to treat it like just an assignment, that's fine. You won't be doing yourself any favors, okay? It's just something to think about. Now, that's on the job side. I do want to give you at least some general tips and guidelines for if you're crazy like me and want to stay in school, okay? I've been in college for 12 years now, right? I've been in college since I was 18 in some fashion or another. What's that? Oh, yeah. That's where the celebrations are at.
What are you doing now?
What's that?
What are you doing now?
When are you going to party with us?
I'm here. Well, I guess instead of taking the orders, I'm giving the orders, right? Is that how it is? Let me talk a little bit about graduate school. I don't want this to seem like I'm pitching graduate school to you as if it's, like I'm trying to push everybody towards that. But I will say this: if you have the motivation or the inclination to consider grad school, I would highly consider it. I would also, as a general rule, say that. I would also, as a general rule, say that a master's degree is highly attainable for just about anybody. And a master's degree is something you definitely want to consider. Now, I have a PhD, and I'll be the first person to tell you, do not go and get a PhD unless you want a PhD, okay? There is a devotion element to it. If you do not want it, don't do it, okay? A master's degree is a very fast process. I mean, I got my master's degree in 3 semesters, okay? Imagine and think about, you've been here, 4 years or so, another 3 semesters and you could have a whole nother degree. I mean, keep in mind what that master's degree would do for you, okay? Number one, it would take time off your license, okay? You get 1 year off of the required work experience for your license if you have a master's degree, okay? Number two, bump up in pay, period. You will get more money with a master's than you will a bachelor's degree, period. Okay. Point 3, you're going to increase your potential success in getting a job. If two people are applying for a job, one person has a bachelor's, one person has a master's, see the difference? That's going to happen. Okay? Just something to think about. I'm not pushing you towards that. I'm not trying to say you must do that. That is not the case. Plenty of engineers have wonderful careers and advance up in management and do just fine without master's degrees, but it is something to consider. You usually only take sometimes 30, sometimes 33 hours, credit hours to get a master's degree. I had 30, and usually you're taking about 9 hours a semester. What I did for mine is I had 9 hours in the fall, I had 9 hours in the spring, I took some research credits over the summer, and then I had 2 additional classes the following fall, and then I was done. That was my master's experience. I'm sure that some of you are, when you think about a master's degree, I'm sure that you have heard that dreaded T word, right? The thesis. I don't want to write a thesis. It was like, how long was your thesis, Dr. Mike? It was 206 pages long. And everybody goes, oh my God, I have to write 206 pages? Are you kidding me? I'm telling you, it's really not that bad. And let me explain. You're going to spend, like when you do a master's thesis, you're going to spend, a semester or more, doing the work associated with it. And then, when it comes down to actually writing it, you sit there and you form your outline and you start breaking it down. You take each old topic, like, oh, well, I can write a paragraph on that. Oh, I can write a page on this, and I can do that. Next thing you know, a couple weeks later, it's done. Okay? So you'd be surprised how, it's really not that bad. Yes?
But you don't have to do this, right?
It depends. That's a good question. Some universities require theses. Some have non-thesis options. Usually with non-thesis options, you're having to take more classes in lieu of not doing a thesis. I would say this, for those of you that are planning on going towards the PhD, do a thesis. Because the dissertation, the PhD dissertation, is just the thesis, exploded. So you do need that experience. My dissertation was like in the 300s, something like that. Again, guys, you got to understand, I'm being serious. Don't get a PhD unless you want it, okay? So PhDs typically take about 4 years, though, an additional 4. So. Again, honestly, you can have a PhD in engineering. I think, how long does it take, for med school, residency, all that? You got to think. Okay. All right. Let me also mention this about graduate school, and I'll just go ahead and be frank and say this. If you want to go to graduate school, I will say this: everybody in this room picked the right field, okay? Because engineering master's degrees typically offer a great opportunity for funding opportunities. I did not pay tuition for graduate school, period. I paid fees, and I had to pay fees, but I did not pay tuition. It was all covered. Because I was working as a research assistant on funded projects. My first 2 years, I worked on a project for the American Iron and Steel Institute, and then I was awarded the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship, and that funded my last 3 years of grad school. So my funding was covered, okay? And my case is not terribly unique. Now, I was working as a research assistant, typically in graduate schools, particularly at graduate schools that are powerhouse research institutions. You're going to have opportunities to be either a research assistant or a teaching assistant. So, like, for instance, I come from WVU. WVU has a fairly large freshman engineering program. And a lot of graduate students end up getting funding opportunities, or at least they did when I was there, got a lot of funding opportunities by being a teaching assistant for freshman engineering. And they'd actually teach courses like Engineering 101 and 102 and things like that. You know, they'll say, I'll be honest with you, they'll say it's 20 hours a week. It's more. You're gonna work more. Just telling you. If you are wanting to get into grad school, typically a GPA of 3 or better is a typical minimum. 2.75 you can usually get in. They'll probably put you on some sort of provisional status or probationary status, but once you get past your first semester, that usually goes away. One thing in graduate school, you'll find that graduate school GPA, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter as much, but in graduate school, you're typically getting A's or B's. That's it. When you look at graduate school classes, it's either A's or B's. If you're getting a C in graduate school, a C in graduate school is equivalent to an F in undergrad. In fact, most graduate school classes, the professor won't even, it'll either be A or B or that'll be it. So just something to keep in mind. But let me also say this. Graduate school tends to be, it's like, when you're in high school, you're taking all this stuff you have to take. And then you get to undergrad, and now you all chose to be civil engineers. And you're taking classes in civil engineering that you love, but then you find, well, I don't like, structures as much as I like environmental or what have you. Well, in graduate school, you're taking nothing but environmental or what have you. So, when you're in graduate school, you are focusing only on what you like. There's something that makes it a lot more enjoyable. Every single class I had in graduate school was a topic I loved it. It was a blast. So, just something to keep in mind if you are considering graduate school. How many of you have heard of the GRE? It's kind of like the SAT for grad school. I'll tell you this. From my experience, so the GRE is a lot like the SAT, where there's a verbal component and a quantitative component. I've typically found that engineering students tend to do all right on the quantitative reasoning. You all have gotten all the way through differential equations. The GRE is for the general college student. So I think you're going to find that the quantitative reasoning section is I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be handleable for an engineering student. But just to give you an idea about the GRE, the GRE is a computer-based test now, and it's adaptive. Now, what I mean by that is the first question that you get is a question of, and this is when I took it, but I don't think this has changed very much. The first question you get is one of comparable or medium difficulty, if you will. And if you get that question right, the test will ask you a harder question, and then a harder question, and a harder question. If you get it wrong, it will ask you an easier question. I'll just go ahead and be frank with my GRE experience. The quantitative section went pretty well, but man, when I got the verbal, it was bad, because they will throw vocab words, vocabulary that I had never heard of. And when I saw that first question and it contained words that I had never seen before, I was like, okay, this one's going to be a good one. This is going to be fun. I do totally recommend, if you're interested in the GRE, I am absolutely positive that if you go on the Google Play Store or the App Store, that there's probably going to be some free apps or maybe some like $5 apps that do GRE vocabulary review. If you're considering going to grad school and you're going to take the GRE, I would highly recommend that. Just, once a day, look and you get an app reminder to go through some vocabulary. I'm telling you, it will give you a substantial leg up on the exam. So it's just something to keep in mind. Did somebody was there? No. Okay. You'll usually need 2 references and a personal statement. I might provide a reference. I don't know. Some of y'all. I'm kidding. He is putting words in my mouth.
He at least showed up to class.
Let's move on. I'll say this. I do mention the personal statement because I'll also be frank. I'm an engineer. I can write a technical paper all day long, but if you ask me to write an essay about how I feel, That's just beyond me, you know. So just something to keep in mind. Every school is different, and every school is going to require different requirements. It's just something to consider, yeah. Typically, I mean, it would depend on the application. A lot of times your cover letter, if the institution is basically saying that that's the cover of your application, then yes, that is the opportunity to write your personal statement. That is probably what they're going to read. Some institutions just say cover letter and application. Some of them actually include the personal statement as a submission. If they do, you probably want to keep your cover letter maybe somewhat brief since you're going to cover it in. Well, what I'm getting at is if an institution requires a personal statement or not. And you'll know that on the application process. So if you apply at UT Knoxville or something, they'll say, okay, for your application you need this, and this. And if they're not asking for a personal statement, then include as much of that in your cover letter as you can. Does that make sense?
So will there be a time when they ask for a cover letter and a personal statement? That's what someone asked me.
It depends on the institution is what I'm saying. One school may and one school may not. That's all I'm getting at. Yes?
I'm going to ask a hypothetical question.
Hypothetical question.
It's like, okay, so your typical minimum GPA is 3 or 2.75. But is there like a community college equivalent of grad school where you can like where you were terrible, but you show that you really want this, and then you go to some lesser school with some really low entrance fee, and then transferring. But yeah, like what is the absolute lowest requirement to get into a grad school?
It's gotta be bad.
Look. Let me say a couple things. Hold on. Now, this is a fair question, okay? And let me say a couple things. And I'm going to give you some fair, honest responses on a couple things, okay? The first thing I think you need to do is I think you need to come up with some clear career objectives, okay? If you want to go be a college professor, that's one thing. If you just want to go be a practicing engineer, that's something else, okay? If you have a little bit of a lower GPA and you are wanting to increase your marketability on the job market, I'm going to tell you right now what you need to do. You need to take and pass the FE, okay? I'll tell you something right now about FE statistics. And the PE board, when they came and presented to us, I think they hit the nail on the head. I wish they had made, one point a little clearer, but they were talking about the national testing average and how, and she, Leslie was frank when she said that the West Virginia testing average is lower than the national average. But the point that she made after that, and I really want to hit the nail on the head, it's not because, or at least in my opinion, it's not because we have bad test takers in the state of West Virginia or our students are lower quality. That's not the problem. The problem is simple. We're not taking the test, okay? That's the problem. Students in West Virginia, the actual test-taking rate is incredibly low, okay? I can tell you right now, we had 20 students in senior design, our last iteration of senior design. I could probably count on one hand how many of them took the exam. So if you have, if you have a school and you have 2 students that take the exam one semester and one of them passes, well, that's a 50% pass rate. That looks pretty bad. But the real problem is how many people are in this room. What, only 2 people take the exam? That's the problem, okay? So I can tell you right now, if you want to increase your marketability for a job, I would seriously, put some time and effort into studying and passing that exam. Okay, I get it. I'm going to tell you right now, I think I know the big reason why West Virginia's numbers have dipped in the past 10 years. When I took the exam was administered by the state board. And it used to be that all the state boards administered the exams. Only here recently, when the exam switched to computer-based testing, did the exam administration become centralized. Now you don't go to the board to take the exam, you go to NCEES and go to some testing center in Charleston, okay? The reason why that's important is because when I took the exam, the West Virginia State Board gave you a pass and they said the first time's free. So what happened was now it wasn't a money issue. Now everybody's like, well, shoot, I'll take the exam, for free the first time, Well, now that there's a fee associated with that test, and how much now? 200? 225. Okay, let me tell you. Okay, look. All right, let me tell you something right now. Okay, and I get what you're saying. I swear I do. I was a college student for 9 years, so believe me, I get it. Okay, but we're talking about $200 in regards to your future. It's time to start thinking about some grown-up decisions. And if a $200 test and a few weekends spent some time studying for this exam, if that's the difference between you getting a job or not, you know what I mean? I can tell you right now that having that FE pass rate under your belt is going to put your resume in a different pile. Serious. I'm just going to tell you right now. Okay. It is within the ability of every single person in this room to pass that exam. I guarantee it. Guarantee. I will say the same thing that I have said to everybody who asks me questions about that exam. It is not a hard test. It's just a long one, okay? They're just going to ask you a lot of stuff, a lot of very basic stuff about a lot of different topics, okay? I guarantee you can pass it. If you put the adequate time into preparing for that exam and you take it, I believe you can pass. The reason why I'm harping on about this test rate is, we were doing FE review sessions last year. There were some sessions I did, I had 2 people come to them. You know what I mean? 2 people. That, all right, so a couple things. Let me say this, and I don't want to talk, start going into the senior design project. We definitely have the time, so we'll talk about this a little bit. There are no plans to do FE review sessions this semester. Okay. First off, they're all recorded on YouTube. They're on the playlist, and I've gotten a lot of. This isn't bragging for me. There's a lot of the faculty produce these videos, but I have gotten emails and comments from all across the country from just random people saying thanks because I passed. Seriously. So it's not some. I don't want y'all to think, well, that's just some. Well, Dr. Mike's saying he's the greatest reviewer ever. I did the structures videos, but I did the structures videos, but we had faculty who did the geotech videos and transportation videos and the environmental videos, and we all focus on our specific disciplines. And I'm going to tell you, I really think that the review series is pretty good. If if in your preparations, if you haven't checked it out, you should. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about next semester. Okay. What do you say? So you're asking, are there any firms or any companies out there that would require both? That's a good question, and I would say typically no, but it depends on the job. If you're just getting a general civil engineering position, probably not. But if you're looking to be some, upper level analyst at, Majeski and Masters or doing complex movable bridge design, well then maybe, it just depends on the job. So, in no way, shape, or form should you say, well, I'm not going to go for that. If you have those qualifications, it's just going to bump you up on the pile. So, Steph.
Even if you go to grad school, you still need to take the FE, right?
If everybody in this room hasn't taken the FE, you should. Let's just put it like that. All it's going to do is open doors for you. I'm serious, All it's going to do is open doors for you. Take a look at me. I'm a college professor. I don't need my license. I'm taking my PE next year. Just because, you never know what's going to happen. So at Marshall, the PE, no, but tenure. Yeah, so. Crossing fingers. 2 more years. I go up for tenure in 2 more years. I'm glad you care so much. All right. Let's talk a little bit about senior design next year, okay? And not to ruin any surprise or anything, but let's just sort of lay it on the line. So, as has been mentioned, there really isn't a geotech or a transportation faculty to rely on right now. And so that's point 1. Point 2, structures and environmental are so far on the ends of the spectrum. And since I'm the one teaching senior design next semester, all I'll say is this: I hope you like structures. Because guess what? Because
This is going to work out well for me.
as far as I know, Steel isn't going to be offered next semester. Yeah, it is. I'm not going to lie. No. Well, look. In all seriousness, I'll get back to you. Okay, that's all I can say about that. But I'll get back to you. Okay. All right. Let me get to my point. Okay. So next semester, you'll be working on your senior design project, and it will it's going to be a structural engineering based project. Okay. Just about every single person everybody in here will have had structural analysis, just period. Okay. And most of the people in this room have had either concrete or steel or both. Most people in this room. If you've only had structural analysis, no big deal. There's plenty of work for you to be able to do. You can do scheduling and cost estimation and structural analysis on the project. So don't think that you aren't going to be able to contribute. Believe me, you are. But because the way that we're handling senior design next semester, because I've got a little bit more control over it, because it's kind of just me, no, what I'm getting at is this: we can take some time in that class next semester, and if you all want to do a math review one day, we can do a math review one day. We can do a structural analysis review one day. Now, I've got limits. I mean, I'm not going to be the greatest at doing an environmental review for you. I'm just going to, punt on that one. But yeah, I mean, there's like a biochemical oxygen demand in there somewhere, and that's about all I remember. But the point is, if you all want to do that, we can do it. I mean, we obviously can't spend the entire semester and just turn senior design into one big FE review session. But if there are some topics you all want to review, I'd be more than happy to review them with you. And I can probably, stretch it a little bit. I mean, I can cover surveying, I can cover, math, I can cover the ethics, computer science, probability and statistics. I can do a lot of that. So we can discuss that down the line if you all want to do that. Okay? There's some very rudimentary computer programming questions on the exam. Like the two computer science topics that tend to be on the FE is, one, if you have an Excel formula here and you copy and paste it over here, what's the results? You have to track, formulas. And then they'll give you a brief bit of pseudocode and say, well, if you put in X in this program and it loops it out, what's it come out in the end? You'll get questions like that. It's simple. It's not incredibly difficult. You did it in 111.
It's all logic. It's fine. You just got to
I do have an Engineering 111 playlist if it helps. We can talk about that as this semester progresses. If you all are interested in it, I would prefer to plan for that. I don't want it to be just spur of the moment. This is your education. As long as you're getting your project done and your deliverables submitted next semester, I mean, I don't care. I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm teaching Senior Capstone 2 this semester as well. And we're at a point in that class where that class they're sort of running on autopilot. In other words, they've defined their objectives, they understand the scope of the project, and they know what they need to get done, and they know they need to get it done by a certain deadline. So, you know, some days we'll meet, some days we won't, because why do we need to meet if they could be spending that time working on their final product? So if you all want to take some of that time and say, well, let's do a ethics review, or let's do a surveying review, or an econ review, I have no problem with that. That's fine. But you know, that's just something to consider down the line. So if you all want to do that. Now, like I said, I got limits, you know. I do have, yeah, fine. That's a good question. I'll say this about DiffyQ. There can be DiffyQ on the exam, but this also brings up another point about the exam. The DiffyQ that is on the exam is very plug and chug. If you go to the manual, there's literally, if your DiffyQ looks like this, here's the answer. If it looks like this, here's the answer. I'm not kidding. Okay? But that gets into another point. You need to review that manual. Okay? You really need to. When I was in undergrad and the exam was paper-based, I mean, for that last year, we took that manual with us like it was a textbook. Every problem that we did, you know, if we were in thermo doing a problem, we were using the FE reference manual, not the PDF online, because we had to actually know where stuff was, okay? You all get the advantage, and you all get the opportunity of the Control F button, because you can hit Control F and just search that PDF, but you still need to know what it looks like. You still need to understand how it works. If you haven't gone to MCES and created an account and downloaded that PDF, I would do so. I would do so right now, because you should be familiar with that. You're going to see stuff, I mean, you're going to open that book and there's going to be a lot of familiar stuff in there already. You know, for those of you that have had steel design, you're going to see the ZX tables and the LTB charts and column tables and KL over R tables and all that. For those of you that have had concrete, you're going to see beam column interaction charts, and you're going to see 0.85 FC prime and all of that. You're going to see air, water, and solid soil classifications and yeah, and limits and derivatives and integrals. Oh my. There's some imaginary numbers in there, which, by the way, unless I'm mistaken, the manual refers to the imaginary number as J, not I. So. The reason why is because the electrical engineers use I for current. So,
I want this on the record.
Hold on. Let me see something. Okay. We're on about 53 minutes. I'll be able to snip that out. So, so you folks who are listening to this video now that that's been snipped out, let's just say you didn't need to hear what was just said. So hit that subscribe button. So. You got to have fun with this stuff, you know. But not too much fun, apparently. Language, sir. Oh, goodness. I do love this job, though. All right. Okay. So, look, the concept of doing an FE review session, you know, sort of an informal review in 453 in the spring is not something I'm opposed to. It would be scaled down a bit, and it would be probably limited to topics that I can do. If possible, I might invite our environmental professor to do an environmental review. So that's something to consider. But that's totally up to you. I don't want it to get in the way of you producing your work product for your design. Okay? So that's just something to think about. Any questions about that? That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't think that there's a clear answer to that. I'll say, bless you. I'll say this. I don't think that there's a codified requirement, but dependent upon, your advisor and who you work for and the department that you're in, I think it just depends on the institution. If you're at an institution that is very heavily research-oriented and research-focused, they may not care so much, but it depends. Me, if I was an advisor and I was taking on a graduate student and they just didn't take it, I would be confused. I'd say, well, why? There is something to be said about the FE. It does demonstrate that you've at least met the standard. It's one of the reasons, again, why I said when you take and pass the FE, it's going to take your resume and move it from this pile to this pile, okay? Because it's going to demonstrate to folks that you've met the standard, okay? And not to harp on points that you all have heard about before, but getting your license, getting your PE license is going to open doors, okay? I'm telling you, it's going to open doors. I know that there are, folks who and I've mentioned this in other classes where, for instance, they might have jobs guaranteed. They might be working at the Corps, or they might have a deal worked out with a consulting firm, and they're sitting here thinking, well, I've already got this figured out when I graduate. Like, what's the big deal? You have no idea what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. You really don't, okay? Having that license, being able to say, PE at the end of your name, first off, wherever you're working, it's going to give you a reason to ask for a raise, and usually you get one right then and there, okay? Because once you get the PE, it allows them to place more responsibility on your shoulders. And putting more responsibility on your plate means, well, it's got to be a little money to go along with that as well. If you've got your PE, it is also going to open the door for potential other job opportunities. Next thing you know, you're working at a company and you get a job opportunity that offers you 20 grand more and a company vehicle, The 20 grand didn't matter, but the company truck, that's like, they go, real question, Ford or Chevy? They go, actually, it's a Hyundai. Hey, I drive a Hyundai, thank you. Actually, I have my wife's car today. It's a Chevy, so. It's an Equinox. So.
What color is it? What is the license plate? Registration. I need your insurance policy number.
Don't try to stick your wallet up over there.
So all I'll say is this: so that whole news story about Equifax and this is recording, so I've already got to snip out one thing. I'm not snipping out anymore. What'd you say? No, I'm going to do it right now. All right. Any other questions? Does anybody have any questions about the homework assignments and the submissions? I'll put the, let me bring the screen back up. Yeah, hold on. Go ahead.
There's a general test, and they also have like mathematics, chemistry.
You don't need to do that. For engineers, you just take the general. If you were getting a degree in math, a degree in physics or chemistry or whatnot, not for us. So, if anybody wants to take a picture of this or whatnot.
Isn't it on the YouTube?
Yes, it is on the YouTube that I'm going to have to edit again. All right. So is everybody, just make sure everybody's aware of the submission schedule. Like I said, we're not going to be here on Wednesday, but there's an assignment due on Wednesday, so make sure that you're keeping up with it. Okay? Sound good? I will see you all in 2 weeks, and we will discuss the interview process. That's what I got. Hold on.
Do you have any idea what the password is?